Good evening, this is ANAGALACTIC again on Friday. Had some very bad news, and now I have some very good news. We're going to be able to be posting to ANAGALACTIC.SPACE. We gave the negative side of Euclid. Euclid developed a very specific subsystem. It hasn't really been a problem until now. That is, we need the geometry that matches what we're looking at. All of our computations have been exclusively linear, but the reason it's so significant is it changes our entire concept of what the universe considers to be its axiomatic basis. As we develop this out formally, that is the main thrust, which was interrupted with really the trials of Job, largely brought on by my own reactivity and not anything that changed anything in the long run. But also this episode came up where I wanted to do something while I was too furious to go on with my work. I simply did not want to continue after being so violently and unexpectedly thwarted. Well, it wasn't that bad. It turns out it was what the problem had been is that they had changed their interface over the past 6 months. And so I guess everyone else just noticed it, but I wasn't keeping up, so I didn't notice. So it's pretty simple, and I really made a big deal out of nothing, and that gripes me to do that, so I'm sorry. But also, I've learned to forgive myself after the fact now, because I'm old and cranky, and I need to keep going. So it's better to just, accept the shame that I really blew it. Okay, I really did. And with Euclid, I gave not the whole story, which was that he had chosen to define the point before the line, even though he was defining the line, and that's the only goddamn thing he was interested in, was the line. So why did he start with the point? Because he's a wise old man? Not at all. Not at all does it show that he was wise. Because he got both of his propositions asked backwards. He got them wrong. And he should not have been doing what he was doing. Now, that, is not entirely true, what I said. Quite an exaggeration. And this is my greatest deficit, I think, is my tendency to exaggerate, but I swear, on a stack of Bibles, I mean well when I do it, because by being sidetracked, which is true, Euclid did sidetrack us. But if I were going to be sober, and now I'm going to give you the sober way of saying this, Euclid invented a minor geometry that's a branch of universal geometry. And the only reactivity that perhaps might come out of that, which I just kind of gave an example of how reactivity is never good. You don't want to react emotionally at all. We're supposed to be like Vulcans. Well, I blew it. I was more like McCoy. Jim, have you gone galactically gaga? Or something like that, Not like Spock. Captain, let us try to keep our cool, or, whatever Spock would say. So what we would like, what I'm filling in, is the part of geometry that was left out for 2,000 years. As soon as the Greeks saw the circle and exercised their intelligence upon it, they broke their goddamn shin bones, knees. They finally couldn't stand it. They gave up. And humanity has never caught up. Not even during the golden age of the Industrial Revolution in the 19th and 20th century. Not even then. Not even then did anybody ever return to the circle. The circle is the gateway to the sphere. And the sphere is the gateway to the universe. We know that now. So, what I had left out was how Euclid should have started, without losing anything, was to show where he got the line and where he got the point. The fact is that Euclid made up his own idea of what the line should be, and nobody has ever corrected him. Oh, he's definitely incorrect. Well, you might say, well, that's ridiculous, Sam, because everything works. No, not everything works. It doesn't work. That's the whole... This is so difficult to even talk about because of the overwhelming impression we get from technology. We're flying through outer space on linear algebra without any spherical anything to help us. We landed on the moon and sent probes to Neptune. I mean, we build lasers. We have harnessed electricity, not ever touching the circle. To this day, science does not know what the circle even is. They've never used the circle. Instead of using the circle, even with Fourier transforms, nobody uses circular or spherical geometry for circular or spherical phenomena. Why not when you should? Because nobody ever developed it. It's assumed that the linear number system handles it because, and here's the really grotesque part in several senses, is that we're using the multiplicative divisional proportional number system as if it were linear. And that's why we need sine, cosine, calculus, and complex numbers. Do we need them? If we actually needed those, the human race is doomed to insanity. We're using Legos. You should be using a circle and circular geometry and spheres and studying the geometry of spherical and circular and curved space. Well, nobody thinks there's any way to do that. Except with sine, cosine. Except with complex numbers. And except with calculus. Well, then you're never going to understand the universe. And that goes contrary to the blueprinting that's in you. That's my thesis. We're blueprinted to get the answers. We're blueprinted to understand space-time. But nobody does understand it. We understand it just well enough by shaving off the corners of reality to make the universe do what we want. But as for understanding what the universe is actually saying, what does all this mean? What does space-time mean? What does the quantum paradox mean? Well, what is the electron and protonic system? What does it mean? What does it have to do with reality? You realize everybody in the history of mankind has been trying to find out the stuff that we actually know now? Well, what good is it doing us? We lost our way. We stayed with linear mathematics when by now somebody should have discovered the other number system. Well, I just discovered it. And so now I'm happy. The reason I'm screeching now is I'm on an emotional roller coaster ride because, I mean, it was really traumatic to find out. I did lose all my files, that's true, but the serious part was that I couldn't build out new pages. Without new pages, we don't have anywhere to post our work. This is for you, so you'll be able to communicate with me through the ANAGALACTIC.SPACE site to say, you know, this is a good paper, thank you very much, and download. You're going to be able to download documents in 4 or 5 different formats. I'm going to give you code. I'm going to give you graphs. You're going to get all the answers to all the questions. All of this is going to make sense. You can study it in your leisure time. There's hundreds and hundreds of aspects of this now that I've developed over the past, well, it's been developed for me by the universe is telling me all this. This is absolutely synthetic. It changes our number system. It changes our geometry. It changes our perception. It changes all of our models. And it gives us the answers that put an end to this psychotic madness that's reigning in so-called science now. I've got the solution to all of it. But in order to proceed professionally, I need the assistance of a site. And I've had it for a year, but I've been too busy learning to post anything or consolidate all this because it's exploding hyperbolically in all directions. I could study this for the next 10 years and write a whole volume set of Encyclopedia Britannica, all of new knowledge and breakthrough information coming directly from this new number system. These new relationships, the ability to see spherically, to understand the quantum paradox, to understand the electron and proton that nobody understands, and the flight of the photon, the nature of space and time, and light, and reality, and the meaning of consciousness, and why there is humanity and an ecology. Why is this so beautiful? Why does it look like it's going on forever? Does anyone have any answer for the children who ask about the edge of space? I do. If we were Euclid, you and I, just Euclid and his buddies, let's say, and we were going to start with a definition of the point, do you know what it would be? It would not be it's a 0D dimensionless non-object. That's nullity. He invented a universe that begins with shit. And so he developed a null system. That's exactly what you need in the linear number system. You have to have the zero. So he basically invented zero before it was discovered. Euclid did not think that point was zero, but it was. And it has to be in order to make the other numbers. That can be shown by his sequence. Because in the next line, line 2, and he defines the line, he defines it as a 1D space. That is that it has length, but no breadth. Okay? The reason he says it that way is so that the length will be available for quantization, which is you make it into points. When you start with a line, as it's going to be points, that's one way to start. That gives you the linear number system. So actually this has to be done anyway. So Euclid is no lost time. It was good. He did the right thing, but it's not based correctly. What that should have been chapter 2. When he defines the line as being composed of points is what he should have done. He did not actually do it that way. He started out by saying that the point is a real thing. No, it's not. He defined the point incorrectly. But there is such a thing as a point. And it makes a vast amount of difference how you begin in your geometry in defining the point. And actually, you should not even begin with a point, because from the circle, you can derive the point. You don't lose anything. Tomorrow, we're going to begin properly. So this is the end of 3 years of work. Difficulty at the beginning that, quite frankly, I brought on myself. All right, we'll be right back. Keep looking up. We'll be back with the most amazing series of what the universe wants to teach you. I'm sorry, I'll be back soon. We'll be